Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Thought I Would Be Good. My name is Kelly and today's video is my submission to Coven Conference, which is an online conference in lieu of or instead of General Conference. And it's really interesting because I'd always wanted to, especially in the last few years, wanted to be able to give a General Conference talk one day, realizing of course that was never going to happen because you'd have to be in a general board or presidency or whatever. When I saw on my Instagram feed this idea, I thought that was so cool. And so normally in general conference talks, there's like cute little stories at the beginning to pull at the heartstrings or get your attention or whatever. And so my story is pretty cool. It starts off pretty boring though. I was working as a librarian in a school. It was a middle school, so we're talking grades 6 to 8. And we got a submission of book donations, and one of them was how to draw 3D optical illusion images. And so I went through and I looked through the book and I was looking for one to do because I wanted to put this book on display for the middle school kids, try to entice them to take this book out by seeing something that they could do. So I finally chose this picture, this image, and so it took a little while, but again, in the library it was pretty quiet, pretty boring. So this was the image that I chose. If I left it at that, it would be a pretty boring story, I admit. A few weeks later, however, I was cleaning in the kitchen here, and I thought, well, the mood strikes, so I'm going to clean behind the fridge. I've lived here for almost a year. I'm going to clean behind the fridge and see how good the previous tenant did it. It was not clean, but there was a frisbee on the ground underneath the fridge, and so I grabbed it and I flipped it over. Isn't that trippy? 3 weeks apart. First, I drew this image and then found it. So, I don't know what you want to make of that. That's just my little story to get things started. Maybe future me knew I was going to be seeing that image and it prompted me to choose it in the first place. I have no idea. I'm not sure how or why that worked out that way. No clue. But the point is, I was open to the possibilities of what that could have meant, and have been open to possibilities for quite some time now. I began on the spiritual awakening journey that I now realize that's what it's called, in and around March of 2018. Things were really crappy in my marriage at the time. I'd already left my husband once and went back to him. It was on its last legs, and we were in the process of separating for good, and we're now just about done finalizing a divorce. Hey. It was suggested to me by my husband at the time to look into using cannabis medicinally. He'd watched a documentary by Bill Nye the Science Guy, who reviewed the properties and the benefits and everything like that. And so we watched it together and made the decision to look into it. And I mention that because for two reasons. It really helped me to quiet the anxiety that was happening and let me cope with the trials and strife that were happening in my marriage at the time. And so I only mention that because I've never mentioned it on my channel before. I only mention that because I feel that utilizing cannabis when I did helped to facilitate healing, as well as opened my mind to possibilities. The journey began with me pleading to God or the universe or the divine. At the time, I was Mormon, so I was addressing the divine as my Heavenly Father, asked for help in fixing my life. And made the decision that I would be open to all possibilities. The things that showed up were completely not what I expected. And then the second reason is because of this newfound thing in utilizing cannabis medicinally. I was outside quite a bit, and we lived out in the country. I was looking at the sky a lot in the evenings, just stargazing. I know that sounds super lame, but really, and it got me thinking about greater and bigger things. And then I got thinking about how the universe worked, because I always thought that it was just a wide open space that was just filled with stuff. And it turns out that's not how it is. So I started to learn all of these things that were helping me to heal in my life. And it led me to an understanding that there is a direct connection between you and the source of divinity. So I started using cannabis medicinally in March of 2018. Incidentally, was gospel doctrine teacher like at the same time. And then by about the summertime was beginning to intrinsically learn things about the universe. And I only just learned that term the other day. And what it means is when you gain knowledge from within yourself, gathering it from the higher divine, through the spirit, or through your higher self, whatever, doesn't matter. So I was beginning to learn things about the universe just intuitively, and also being prompted to study things as well. And I believe it was because I spent a good amount of time in the night, in the evenings, avoiding my husband and enjoying the view of the universe from what I could see. Anyway, I began to be curious about those types of things, and then that led me to study quantum physics popped into my head, and then study the Fibonacci sequence, and then learn about sacred geometry. And all of these things kind of brought me this newfound knowledge that I'd never had before. I'd only ever had spiritual knowledge from the LDS Church. I didn't have knowledge about energy and vibrations and frequencies and how it all works, and how your physical body is connected to your spirit body and your energy field that you have. And then I also came to learn new things about myself, understanding that came. I learned that I was an empath and an intuitive empath, and then everything made sense. It brought clarity and peace and comfort. I know I mentioned that in a couple of videos ago. I'm grateful that this journey has brought me to the place that I'm at now. I'm happy and comfortable with the knowledge that I've gained in my life to this point, and the knowledge that's available to be gathered. So, seek out further light and knowledge. There's lots of amazing different sources, but most importantly, if you can get to a point of trust with yourself, you can ask yourself, you can learn from yourself things to improve, things to change, things that will help you grow and be closer to your higher self, the best version of yourself. So I'm grateful that you guys stuck through that. Thank you for taking the time to listen and for enjoying this wonderful Coven conference. I'm looking forward to seeing what everyone else has presented. You guys take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.